Hey everybody, Jay Widener here. We're back reading from the book, A Monument to the End of Time. And we're on a new chapter, chapter 7, Decoding the Cross at Hendaye. So now we're kind of getting into it. All the rest was prologue. And now we're going to get into the cross of Hendaye over the next few chapters. This chapter is Decoding the Cross of Hendaye, chapter 7. And this is section 1, A Monument at Hendaye. And it's Hendaye in French, but I always say Hendaye just because it's just easier for everybody in English to understand. It's possible to date Fulcanelli's visit to Hendaye to the early 1920s because of his comment on the, quote, special attraction of a new beach bristling with proud villas, unquote. H.G. Wells, Aldous Huxley, and the smart young London set discovered St. John de Lux in 1920, and by 1926 or so had spread as far south as Hendaye. Fulcanelli's visit therefore coincides with the influx of international intelligentsia. Even in this minor point, Fulcanelli seems to be moving at the edges of some very exalted circles. Although Fulcanelli declares that quote, Hendaye has nothing to hold the interest of the tourist, the archaeologist, or the artist, unquote, the region does have a rather curious history, some of which Fulcanelli obviously knew. A young Louis XIV met his bride on an island in the bay below Hendaye, along the boundary between Spain and France. It is also important to remember that Hitler paid a visit during World War II. In 1940, he parked his train car within walking distance of the cross of Hendaye. The region has other esoteric connections. Hendaye is on the border of Basque country, with a people whose genetic makeup has proven to be unlike any other in Europe. Their language is also a strange mixture of Finno-Ugaric and unknown roots. There are no links to any other language in Europe. A DNA study on the Basque in the early 1990s reported that they had resembled no other genetic group on Earth. The only close genetic relatives of the Basque were the Quechua, Peru, the once mighty Inca. And that's a mistake. And that's my fault. I made that mistake. It is not a DNA. They did a linguistic study in the early 1990s and said that the Basque language was closest to the Quechua language of Peru. These facts have suggested to some researchers that the Basque and the Inca are the remnants of a global pre-catastrophic civilization, the lost Atlanteans to the more imaginative. Fascinating as the speculation about Atlantis is, it would seem to have little to do with Hendaye. Yet in a work by an obscure Victorian scholar, J.F. Hewitt, entitled The History and Chronology of the Myth-Making Age, we found a clue to what might have been the origin of the Hendaye cross. The main thrust of Hewitt's book argues that the ancient pre-Aryan people of India were part of a vast global civilization, Atlantis, that worshiped the movement and the alignments of certain stars and planets. In attempting to apply his theory to the early people of Europe, which he thought had been colonized from India, Mr. Hewitt describes a large linga he found in a private collection. The carvings on this menhir, or megalith, standing stone, including counterclockwise turning sun wheels and an 8-rayed star. Another 8-rayed star. They match to a degree the designs on the later Hendaye cross. It was found at the end of the avenue of standing stones somewhere on the high lands at the head of the Gulf of Gascogne, within a few miles of the village of Hendaye. However strange many of Hewitt's ideas were, his intuitions on this original Hendaye cross seem oddly close to the mark. He translates the geometric symbology on the original cross to mean that, quote, this is an altar to the god of time, who sent the sunbird of the winter solstice to fly its annual course from south to north and north to south round the pole, and to supply the light and the heat which nourishes the mother tree of life, unquote. To Hewitt, the monument was erected to the god of time, or the deity of the great year. As we have seen in previous chapters, the entire astro-alchemical tradition appears to be embedded with these symbols. Since the stone was only removed in the late 19th century, it might have been in place perhaps in front of the village church when the anonymous sculptor of the Hendaye cross copied some of its motifs. The most significant image linking the cross at Hendaye and Hewitt's Linga is the 8-rayed star. This suggests a connection with the region's other esoteric community, the Knight Templars. The entire Bern region was known for its Templar sympathies. St. John de Luz, with its connections to St. John the Baptist, was the last known location of the Templar Navy. Fulcanelli himself points up this relationship by slyly referring in the Hendaye chapter to the octagonal church of the Templars at Lut Saint Sauveur, high on the Haute Pyrenees above Lourdes. That's where my wife and I got married, at that church. It's an incredible place. This suggestive and esoterically heady brew was the background out of which the strange significance of Hendaye's cross emerged. How much of that this Fulcanelli knew as a matter of conjecture, but the maker of the cross itself certainly had, as Fulcanelli comments, quote, a profound knowledge of the universe, unquote. When Fulcanelli visited in the 1920s, Hendaye was a small town. He noted its, quote, little houses huddle at the foot of the first spurs of the Pyrenees, unquote, and comments on the, quote, rough and rugged landscape, unquote, in which the natural austerity of the wild scene is scarcely relieved by the headland of Fuente Arabia, showing ochre in the crude light thrusting into the dark grayish-green mirror calm waters of the Gulf, unquote. Keep in mind that the cyclic cross of Hendaye, the second to the last or penultimate chapter of Mystery of the Cathedrals, was added to the second edition when the book was republished in 1957. Hardly anyone in the occult world noticed this edition or commented on it, perhaps because it doesn't fit neatly into any of their preconceived notions of alchemy. It's like the quote from Sherlock Holmes about the dog that didn't bark in the night. The silence concerning the odd chapter doesn't make any sense. It makes Hendaye conspicuous by its absence. The appearance of Hendaye is revealed by Fulcanelli's declaration, quote, whatever its age, the Hendaye cross shows by its decoration of its pedestal that it is the strangest monument of primitive millenarianism, the rarest symbolic translation of Chileism which I have ever met, unquote. No matter who one thinks Fulcanelli actually was, from the evidence of the mystery of the cathedrals, he was one of the most scholarly and knowledgeable writers on symbolism the reader has likely ever encountered. He was telling us the truth when he announced that the cross was the rarest and strangest monument he had ever seen. This is important because Fulcanelli openly connected alchemy and the apocalypse, the true nature of that very specific Gnostic astro-alchemical mean whose fingerprints we have now traced through several millennia emerged into public consciousness. This meant that the secret was no longer contained among the elect societies. For the first time since the Gothic Renaissance, the meme had broken out of its incubational structures. In a way, the cross and its message served as proof that there are such things as secret societies. Found continuously throughout history, they preserve and present the secret of the cross in various ways to diverse people. The Kabbalah in Judaism, Sufic Islam, esoteric Christianity, Gnosticism, and alchemy hold these ideas in their central myths and truths. The central message of the three remaining Western religions is a secret that also lies at the heart of the cross at Hendaye. The meme at the heart of the secret seems to have survived only through the actions of these sometimes insular groups. The cross of Hendaye stands today at the southwest corner of St. Vincent's Church in the town of Hendaye, the busiest corner in town. No one notices the strange monument that sits in their midst. Shoppers and workers pass by with hardly a glance. Perhaps it was intended that way. So that's the end of that section. So I think that the cross was probably copied from another cross that had been there, and that was copied from another cross. which was copied from another cross. And we know from further examinations that there's crosses that resemble the Hendaye cross all over France and Germany and Belgium, and they're everywhere. And so it was part of a group that was building them, and they were doing it to relay this very important information, which we're about to get into. Also, and I'll get into this later, here in America, as I will show in the book, but also other research since I did this book, has shown that the Native Americans also use the same exact symbols that are on the cross of Hendaye. I'll show you the ones from Peru as we read, but as just a few weeks ago, a person I know, found an article in a Oklahoma newspaper about an Indian ceremony in the 1920s in Oklahoma, and they use the same exact symbols that are on the Hendaye cross in their ceremony. So it's like a worldwide thing, and it's passed down because it's the end. It's about the end of time. It's about the end of the world. It's the most important information of all, and so the secret societies were created to pass down this really important information. And so now I'm passing it on to you. Anyway, that's all I got to say for today. I'm Jay Widener. It's Reality Check. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back to read another chapter soon. Thanks so much for watching.